Hey, footy fans, welcome to the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and today we've got a sensational Warriors legend on the show. We're going back in the day with the one and only Michael Witt. How you going, brother?
I'm going good till you told me it's way back in the day.
Mate, you're still a stud. Nothing to worry about on your end, mate.
Feeling old, I tell you.
Mate, what are you doing with yourself these days? You're over in the Gold Coast, eh?
Yes, mate. I live in the Gold Coast. We've been here since finished playing footy. And I here sell real estate. Sell real estate here in the Gold Coast. So beautiful part of the world.
Man, oh, so good. I'll be coming over. It's not too long now, about 6 or 8 weeks, and I'll be over for a holiday. Can't wait. Can't wait.
Nice.
Yeah, man. So what's a typical sort of relaxing day when you're not selling real estate? What do you get up to in your spare time?
Do you know what? I'm a very boring dude, really. I'm a family man. Love my girls. I've got two daughters,
Yeah.
14 and 11. So usually they're playing basketball somewhere, and I'm off following them around, chasing them around, watching them play. But outside of that, mate, just chill, bit of beach, bit of just family time. I don't get too nuts. I still got a little bit of involvement in footy. I'm with the Burleigh Bears in the Queensland Cup, so that keeps my finger on the pulse in terms of the footy side of things. But yeah, just love hanging with the girls.
Well, that's awesome, dude. Family's awesome stuff. What about let's wind the clock back. Where did you grow up, and what was life like for you as a young fella?
So I grew up in a little town called Toowoomba, a couple of hours, hour and a half from Brisbane. Um, Grew up, which is a footy rugby league mad town. My dad played footy, all my uncles played footy, and we were just footy tragics. Just wanted to play footy. I got an older brother and a younger brother, so all three of us played footy in the front yard until we got called in for dinner. And we had a great life growing up. Pretty chilled in Toowoomba. Old man's a builder. Mum was a hairdresser and used to look after us kids. So I was one of the lucky ones. I'm very privileged growing up.
It's beautiful, man. That's really cool. Like having that, from day dot with your brothers, families all involved, everyone's happy, doing what you love doing. Absolutely love that, man. So you
Yeah.
said your brother played a bit of league with you, but you actually got into boxing originally when I was doing a bit of research for this. So where'd the boxing come in, and how did that transfer to rugby league?
Boxing come in from watching Rocky.
I love those movies. Oh, good.
So that was me as a kid, man. I just always loved watching Rocky and kickboxer and all those sort of things. I just pestered my parents for a long time. I said, I want to fight. I want to fight. There's an older gentleman just around the corner who had a boxing bag in his gym. So I used to go, in his garage. I used to go in there and just slash around on the boxing bag. Then I got to an age where he said, okay, you need to go and see a proper boxing trainer and do it properly. And so every footy off season, so footy was obviously the main priority. And then every footy off season, I'd go and do some amateur boxing. And yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Did you take it to any sort of great heights before you decided to go full on with rugby league?
I got to a point where, yes, I was going to the Australian titles
Oh,
and
wow.
it overlapped with a footy trial game. Dad was my coach at footy, and he said, okay, mate, it's come to that time where you've got to pick which avenue you want to go. And to be honest with you, I didn't really fancy getting punched in the face for a living. So footy was always number one. So I sort of parked the boxing there. Managed to revisit it a few years later when I retired. But it was sort of, man, I was finished by sort of 13 years old. I'd finished the formal side of the boxing.
Okay, so at that time, who was the club that you were sort of playing for that took you, to your rep footy?
Yeah, so I played Newtown Lions, a team in
Okay.
Toowoomba, which our Steve Price, our Warriors captain,
Wow.
was played there. Actually, interesting story is that Pricey was my coach in under eights at
Oh, wow.
Newtown. Yeah, so he was my coach before he was my captain. And then, so played all my junior footy there and managed to sort of get a contract with Parramatta that took me to Sydney when I was 16.
Okay. That's incredible that you had such a full circle coming back to play with
Crazy.
Steve Price at the Warriors
Yeah.
years later. That's insane. Who
Yeah,
knew?
his younger brother, Denny. was my age. Hence the reason Big Steve-O was our coach. I think he was only 18, 19 at the time.
Wow.
But yeah, he coached me in underage, which is full circle. And who would ever thought that he ended up being my captain, my teammate.
That is an awesome stat. That was a good trivia question if you ever need that.
Yeah, there you go.
So you got selected to play for Queensland under 15s and 16s. What was that sort of progression like for you stepping up playing rep footy?
It was just everything you want to strive for. I guess it's being a young kid playing rugby league in Queensland. Everyone wants to play for Queensland. So that was awesome. Meet some great teammates and some guys that I end up playing against later in life. But it was just something that you always want to strive to play at the highest level, and was lucky enough to make a couple of those sides. It was just, I used to find it, just used to think it was a little tick, another notch in the belt, and then I'd move on to the next thing.
Okay, and so were you like goal kicker and playing in the halves back then as well?
Yeah, always a goal kicker. Always a halfback or a 5'8". So,
okay.
Much to my dad's disgust sometimes when I was a goal kicker, like, don't worry about goal kicking. But my uncle was one of the best bush footy players in Toowoomba. He was a goal kicker, and he always used to say to me, "No, mate, you keep kicking goals. You're good at it, and it's another string to your bow." And so it's something I worked really hard on. Something I always did.
Did you have any like particular routine, even right back then, that like, because I've done a lot of goal kicking when I was a young fella, and you sort of have
Yep.
an idea of where you want to aim it and all that. Like, was there any
Yep.
actual like proper training you could do for that?
I wouldn't say proper training or any coaching. It was more so just practice, and I'd practice a lot. I'd practice at footy train, and then I would, on a day off, I'd get mum to take me to the footy ground. My younger brother would train on a different field, so I used to have a field to myself. So I always
Okay.
did a lot of kicking. Just always reps. I think reps was the biggest thing as a younger guy, for any kid playing every sport. I say the same thing to my girls now with basketball, and just go and get some reps, go and shoot. Even if you're doing it wrong, as long as you just keep doing it and you sort of, you get your rhythm with it, it'll work out in the end. So yeah, I always loved it. I was lucky enough to have Jason Taylor,
Oh wow.
who was the North Sydney legend, I guess.
Yeah.
He was my coach at Parramatta in the under-18s. So the second year of my time in Sydney, he was my SG Ball coach, and he was amazing, fantastic goal kicker, obviously. The thing I think that he taught me is once I missed a kick, I could usually, after his coaching, I knew why I missed it and what I was doing. So he did that with me at a young age. And the other thing I learned from JT is he's, and no disrespect, we talked about this before with JT, but he wasn't the most athletically gifted guy. But one thing he was meticulous in his training, meticulous in his preparation. Always did those things, and that's why he got to the level that he played. He played State of Origin, and yeah, as I say, no disrespect, he didn't get there on ability alone. It was work ethic, and that's what's got him there.
Well, you've seen that in some of his highlight reels over the years. There's so many playoff matches where he's kicked like a winning field goal or something. Like a clutch play, Jason Taylor, North Sydney Bears back in the day. It's unreal, eh?
Yeah, that's right. And you always see him getting whacked. He was always getting bashed. He was a tough cookie. He was built like a pencil, but tough as nails, and a hell of a lovely bloke. Really, really good coach and football brain. And I was lucky enough to cross paths with him to start with, and that sort of got me a bit more, I guess, regimented in my kicking style with a couple of things. And then I worked with a couple of different coaches through. I worked with Graham Arnold, who's a Socceroos coach. He did a little bit of kicking stuff at Manly. And then I worked with DJ Halligan, Daryl, when I was at the Warriors for a little bit. So very, very spoiled in terms of goal kicking coaches.
Doesn't get much better than Daryl Halligan. He's the GOAT, right? He's up there. He's unreal.
Yeah, he is. And by the time I went to the Warriors, I was pretty set in all my kicking, but he made one fine little change. that I guess made a bit of a difference because I kicked pretty well when I was there.
You certainly did. You certainly did. So, how did the Parramatta Eels come knocking? How did you end up there playing first grade?
Look, to be fair, I'd sort of dealt with a couple of clubs, but my elder brother had already signed with Parramatta.
Okay.
So he was already in Sydney playing. And I guess, to be honest, that's probably what opened their eyes to me. I was speaking with a couple of NRL clubs, but I wanted to go to Sydney. I wanted to go and, I don't know, I just always thought that Sydney was the place to be. And you go down there and you play for the Parramatta Eels. You don't play for, a Queensland Cup team or something like that. So maybe I was a bit, I was just naive in the fact that that's what I thought I was doing, and I was always going to do that. And being that my big brother was already there, I knew it was a great club. I was super excited, and they sort of signed me when I was 14, I think, for a couple of years to stay at home, and went down after when I was 16.
So, what challenges did you find, like being a young fella, uprooting from home, moving to the big smoke in Sydney? Like what were the challenges involved for you as a young fella there?
Of course. I mean, it's you have a bit of that miss your parents, miss home. But the thing for me is that I always knew that was my path, because there's no NRL team in Toowoomba. I knew I'd have to leave home to do it. I'd seen my brother do it, so that was just what I needed to do to get to the next level. So yeah, I'm sure there's times when I was a bit homesick, but it never questioned what I was doing. Like, I'm 40 years old now, but and my eldest daughter's 14. So I think there's no way in the world I would let her move to Sydney at 16 years old.
Oh, way.
So, crazy that my parents let me do that. And my elder brother left when he was 16, or maybe 17. But it was just something that was just had to do. We wanted to do it. I think mum and dad knew the fact how single-minded we were. That's all we wanted to do. So that's where the opportunities were. I guess it was tough times, but none that ever made me question what I was doing. I always wanted to play in the NRL, and that's where I needed to be to do it.
I guess if you've got that maturity and your parents can see that, I guess they're all right with you, going to pursue your dreams. And I guess the reality is you've got to get into a system while you're young, I guess, to progress further forward.
Yeah, I guess so. It's all part of the ladder to the top. You don't just turn up in the NRL one day. There's a path, and you've got to go down there, and you've got to play against the best players. And I felt that at the time, that's why I wanted to go to Sydney. That's where I thought all the best players were, and I wanted to challenge myself. And to be fair, I was probably naive. I just was like, that's what I'm going to do. I've already decided I'm going to play footy, and that's going to be my career. And luckily enough, it sort of fell into place. But I was probably a bit naive, the fact of how hard it is and how many guys, good footballers I played with in my time that never actually played an NRL game. I was probably a bit naive and I guess a little bit of luck.
Okay. So in 2002, you played for an SG Ball Grand Final. So this was part of that journey you're talking about. You went down 18-16 to Western Suburbs, but how tough was it, getting to a grand final, but going down in the big one? Did you think that maybe that affected your chances moving forward?
No, it's not really. I was just, I had the shit probably that we lost. I actually, things have changed a lot. I remember I got knocked out in that game and they wouldn't let me back on. And I said, I'm going back on anyway. And they were like, oh, okay. So you sort of bluffed your way through. And at that time, that was normal. And I don't hold grudges, but I tell you what, we did make a break down the middle of the field. Yeah. And gentleman Ryan Hinchcliffe, who had a awesome career at the Storm, Canberra, had a draw and pass, and he didn't draw and pass on the fullback. So Hinchy, I still sort of sway in the fetal position sometimes because I never won a grand final after that.
So when did you officially sign your first grade contract with the Eels? And how many years did they sign you for, and how good did it feel?
I signed my first full-time contract. I was full-time when I did 2 years at Parramatta and re-signed on a full-time contract. So 19 years old in the full-time program. I was sort of working my way through. I was just excited to do footy for a job. I can't remember how long I signed for to start with. I think it might have just been, or maybe I was still already signed. I think I'd already signed for 3 years. So that was my third year. They put me up into the full-time squad. Managed to get a few games, and then I re-signed after that. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. So, and you made your first grade debut in 2003. How did they break the news to you? What are your memories from that first match?
Broke the news to me. Brian Smith called me on the phone. One thing I look at today when you see young guys make their debuts and how they get told and they film it, it's all super special. It's awesome. I love watching it, but it wasn't like that back in our time. I remember I got a phone call the week before, God rest his soul, Paul Green, he broke his eye socket. So I knew the halfback position was available. I didn't think they'd pick me because I was only 19. I'd only ever played 3 games against men, 3 reserve grade games. But I had been playing really well. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I was playing reserve grade halfback. My brother was the reserve grade 5'8". So I got a phone call from Brian. I think it was like Tuesday afternoon. I remember being in my unit on my own, and he just said, "You're playing this week. Are you ready to play?" And I was just like, "Wow!" Like, yeah, I'm sort of really excited. I sort of kept to myself for a little while because I was a little embarrassed. My older brother, obviously, was a half in the same club, and I felt like I jumped him in the pecking order a little bit, so I didn't tell him because I was a bit embarrassed because he was always my idol, right? I remember telling my mum and dad, and I think Dad told my brother, and we were living in the same unit together, so that was a little bit strange. But yeah, good memories. The game itself, we played the Sydney Roosters at Parramatta Stadium, Friday night footy. They had won the grand final the year before, so I knew I was coming in hot. They were the guns at that time. I remember just being in awe as I run out there, thinking, "Far out, like that's Brad Fittler."
No, have you autographed?
Yeah, pretty much. And I remember Brad Fittler was on my edge, and he was telling players to run at me. So run at Witt, and I thought it was fantastic because I was like, Brad Fittler knows my name. Like, I don't care. He's telling everybody to run over me. Like, I was just excited that Brad Fittler knew my name, and I think we got beat pretty well. I think right at the end of the game, our fullback went off, and we scored a try. I got my first NRL goal. But just awesome memories. Would have been better to get a result out of it, but to play with some of the players that I did, and they were a very, very physical, scary team, the Roosters. And
yeah,
I also remember in the lead up, Nathan Kalis, who was our captain at Parramatta at the time, he said, "Oh, this is the perfect time for you to debut. This is the perfect team for you to play against because they sprint out of the line and they're going to try and smash you." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool." He goes, "Perfect, because you've got a really good show and go, so you can just run straight through the middle." And I was thinking, man, I'm not showing and going and straight through that middle like Adrian Morley and Craig Fitzgibbon and Luke Ricketson. I'm not running anywhere near those guys. Like, that's your job.
Oh, that's amazing. A massive 4-pack. They won the grand final the year before. Against the Warriors,
they did. Beat the Warriors, yeah. And then my second game was against the Warriors. So, yeah, I had a tough initiation, that's for sure.
Absolutely. What did you find the speed of the game was like in comparison to reserve grade?
Yeah, heaps faster. I think physically, probably not that big of a difference. I think it's more physical for longer periods of time. But just, speed, fast, crazy. The game sort of, you're 20, 30, half time before you really know it. And it's something that you slowly get used to, and the game starts to slow down through your career. But, super fast.
It's crazy, eh? What sort of extra training? Did you have to do some really crazy training to get to that level of fitness to keep up?
No, not really. I always prided myself on my fitness. That was something that, well, as a half, you need to be one of the fittest dudes. So I remember doing that pre-season and, working my backside off to be fit. I was always fit. I always trained away from footy, so that was never really an issue for me. In fact, a funny story. I remember we did a beat test, which they used to do back then. We don't sort of do too much anymore, but I did a beat test. in the gym upstairs at Parramatta, and there was only two of us doing it. It was me and Paul Green, and so obviously they've matched up the old bull against the young bull, and I was like, all right, well, he's a halfback. I'm going to beat him. I'm just going to keep going till I beat him, and he just didn't give in. He did not give in. We were pretty busted, but he made sure he did one more than me. I had to quit, and he beat me. He didn't beat me by much, but he was not letting me take the title. So I still remember that and go, okay, cool. That's where you got to be at, right?
Wow, you lost to the old dog. You should have won.
Mate, he was a professional. What a champion. I mean,
wow.
So sad how that sort of all transpired, but I always looked up to him. Played for Queensland, so superstar, and he was not letting me beat him that day.
What a great memory to have with him, though. And he was a legend. He played Queensland. I remember some great wins he played in for the Maroons. Awesome.
Yeah,
that was so good, man. So what were some of the learnings you took away from your first season? Because you had a pretty decent crack in first grade, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Once I got into grade, I didn't leave. I played 17 games straight. I would say, like, looking back now, like not when I was then, but looking back now, I was pretty successful. First year, I think we had our last game of the year at Penrith away, and we had to win that game, I think, by a certain number, so 20 points or something like that, to make the semis. We didn't manage to do that, but it was just a part of me. It's just something that I guess I was like, okay, cool. This is where it's at, and this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be, and I know I've got to keep working to stay here.
Yes, pretty awesome getting paid to do what you love doing, eh? That's not bad.
Yeah, yes, exactly right. I mean, I still remember sitting at school and teachers going, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I'm like, I just want to play footy and practicing my autographs and things like that. So for it to come to fruition is like sometimes you got to sort of tap yourself and say it's real. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. Love it. So during that 2004 season, did you feel like you'd had a fair crack at first grade with only the 10 games that you received?
Not really. It was strange. Very, very strange year. So I was obviously the incumbent halfback. They just re-signed me for 4 years. And then things sort of changed. I mean, the coach wanted to play a different way. He decided that he was only going to play with one half and two locks, which was really sort of strange setup.
That's weird.
So they only picked one half, which was Adam Dykes. So things sort of changed a little bit, which found myself in reserve grade for a while until they decided that sort of wasn't working, that the way we were playing. We changed a few things, and then I finished the year back in first grade. But obviously when you get a taste of the big time, that's all you want. That's all you want to be. So turning up playing reserve grade is pretty tough after you've been up there.
Yeah, so how did the Manly deal come about the following season? Was it a case where you asked for a release, or did Manly approach you? How did all that come about?
Yeah, Manly come to me. I certainly didn't ask for a release or anything like that. It just turned out that Noel Cleal, who was like the talent scout, the recruitment guy at Parramatta, he had moved to Manly. I still remember driving my car on Parramatta Road, funny how I can't remember some things and then some things are vivid, but I got a call from Crusher. He said, "You know why I'm calling?" And I was like, "No, I've got no idea why you're calling. What's happening?" Andrew Walker, who was there, 5'8", he'd just been caught on a drugs charge, obviously been suspended. They were looking for a 5'8", and he said, "We want you to come. Would you come if we could get it right?" I was like, "Yep." So that's sort of how it played out. Then sort of everybody else takes over in the background, and I think within a couple of days I was on my way to Manly. My wife, or my girlfriend at the time, but my wife now, she was like, "I don't want to go. I love it at Parramatta."
Yeah.
I said, "Jump in the car. Let's go for a drive to Manly." And I drove her along the northern beaches. And she's like, "Well, yeah, let's go. I'm happy.
Let's go house hunting." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good. So what's it like for you? You've had a pretty good taste of first grade, and then you had a bit of a backward step, you could say, in 2004. But you rock into training. There's like Steve Menzies, Brett Stewart, John Hopewadi, Des Hasler's the coach. Like, Is that intimidating for a young fella walking into this great club?
Do you know what? I was probably more intimidated at Parramatta.
Really?
With the older guys that we had there in Hindmarsh, Vella, Kalis, those guys. It was strange, I guess, because I'd looked up to them through the whole, when I'm playing 17s, 18s. So I looked at them like, oh shit, like I don't want to sort of stand on any toes or do the right thing and be respectful. But there was more of a divide when I was at Parramatta in terms of the senior players and the young guys. So we sort of didn't. No, I had so much respect for them. Like I'm literally carrying their bags and do whatever because that was the way it was done back then, right? No, Rook, you don't sit there. You sit over there. No worries. Sorry, sir. So that was the way it was done there. And get to Manly, they were just a big group of mates, totally different. We all hung out together. Beaver's the most down-to-earth guy probably everyone sees on TV now. He's the most down-to-earth guy in the world. We used to go to his apartment and play poker and hang out, beach and that. So yeah, it wasn't really like that. We were all just a big group of mates. It was awesome.
That is cool, man. Like that's nice to hear that. Like what the players are actually like behind closed doors. Like because you just don't know as a fan. You just don't know.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's some guys that are intimidating guys. Some guys that the facade that they put on, just that media front, is totally different to the guy they are behind the scenes. And I think especially with Beaver, like he's one where you would never have thought Beaver's a rat. Like he's that fun-loving, cheeky bugger. But now, obviously, he's retired. He goes into doing stuff on the Matty John show and stuff like that. That's Beaver. Just when he's playing, he was a bit more serious. No one sort of saw that unless you're behind the scenes, I guess.
That's awesome. So you went into the season. You had a really good crack at first grade. You got 19 appearances. Pretty much started in all bar one of them at 5'8". And so was that really enjoyable and really making a fist of it?
Yeah, it was pretty successful. The Manly team had missed the semi-finals for a fair while. I think Des had coached for only half a year or a year. So he was still fresh to the scene. We started having success. We were in the top four for a long period of time. So yeah, Brookvale Oval, you're winning and you're playing at Brookie. It's it's a pretty cool place. Good place to live when you're winning. All the Peninsula get out and support you, and they play Eagle Rock after you win. It's a good vibe there. It's so it was really good to go there, have some success. Obviously, at the end of the year, we sort of fell away a little bit, but to go there, be winning games in a team that hadn't been winning too much. It was awesome.
So they've gone through a bit of a rebuild since the Northern Eagles had fallen over, and they were sort of finding their feet again as Manly. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. So they'd had a couple of big signings. I certainly wasn't one of those. I did go to the club at that time, but it was Ben Kennedy was their big signing from Newcastle, and they'd also signed Brent Kite. So both of those guys ended up playing for Australia. So they were two big signings, and they really changed things there. Ben Kennedy, the most. He changed the whole culture of the club, to be honest. Just a legend, a leader. And he was we jumped on his back, and there were some young guys there like Anthony Watmo, who sort of watched what he was doing. He taught him how to train and showed him where you needed to be to go and play semis and rep footy and all that sort of stuff. So he was the difference, Ben Kennedy, without a doubt.
Yeah, he's a bit of a gun player, eh? I mean, he got that grand final at Newcastle, and mate, and he did wonderful things at Canberra when he was there. Super player, just
super player,
energy.
Super tough, super leader. Just one of those guys that you just love having in your team, and one of those guys you look at in the dressing room, and he just gives you confidence when he's in your team. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, he was just, what an amazing player to watch. I was pretty young, watching you fellas run around, but I'm the same age as you, actually.
Well, you're young then, definitely.
We're going with young. So you guys actually qualified for the finals, 8th position.
Yep.
You came up against your old club, Parramatta, and they gave you a bit of a touch-up. But that aside, what did it feel like playing finals for the first time?
It was an eye-opener and experience. So there's a different buzz around semi-finals time. Footy's faster again. It's pretty cool. It's a special time of the year to be part of. As you say, we didn't get the result. Parramatta was super hot that year. Super excited to play semi-finals and just get a feel for that different buzz.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like it's like as a fan, it's sort of hard to fathom how the game can get even faster than it normally is. But is it just the fact that everyone's just revving on high octane because they don't want to lose?
Pretty much, like it's kill or be killed at that time of year. It's just everybody's just emptying the tank, whatever it sort of takes, and you've got to be buzzing for 80 minutes because in those big games you just don't win unless everybody's on, or at least 12 out of your 17 players are playing their best footy. You're just not going to win. So just a different buzz, the atmosphere, the build up through the week is different. There's obviously more media and all those sorts of responsibilities as well, which adds to everything. But yeah, it's full on. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. It's so good to watch. It's nothing better than watching finals footy. A couple of cold ones
Exactly.
watching guys just smash the shit out of each other. It's so good.
yeah, and it's you're right. Tackles are a little bit harder. People are running a little bit harder. It's just it's special time.
Yeah, man. So 2006 rolls around. It's another backward step, unfortunately, for Michael Witt. You only got like one game or something after Manly signed Travis Burns and decided to go with him in the halves. Was that like pretty bitter pill to swallow, like after having a pretty decent year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I say again, you play a heap of footy and you just want to keep playing. It was kind of a little bit my own fault, to be honest. That game you talk about against Parramatta semi-final, I got suspended for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So that obviously carries over to the next year. So I'd sort of trained as the starting half all year, but the last week before we start playing, I've got to step out because I can't play the first couple of weeks. Trav Burns come in. He was already at the club, but he come in and did really well. The team were winning, and it was just one of those ones where Des sort of saying, mate, the team's winning, the team's playing good, Trav's playing good. You're just going to have to wait and bide your time, and which sucks, but that's the business. Sucks at the time. You want to kick stones, but that sort of doesn't get you anywhere either. You just got to go to reserve grade and rip in. And that's just the way footy goes. Sometimes even if you're doing everything right, someone's in the team doing pretty well and they're winning. It's hard to get your opportunity. It just is what it is. That's professional sport.
Okay, so was that the catalyst to moving over the ditch head over to New Zealand and signing with the Warriors? How did that deal come about? Like, because you were still signed with Manly for a fairly lengthy long time.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think I had I had one more year at Manly to go. Yes, I think the Warriors sort of asked if I was available. Manly said they'd let me go if I found a deal. So it sort of just fell into place. I do remember the Warriors. They said the Warriors are coming to watch me play. We were playing at Henson Park, of all places. I had a cracked sternum, and I was getting needles in my sternum before the game, and they didn't work. And so it was just, it was pretty sore that day. And I was thinking, oh no, they're going to think I'm sort of avoiding tackles. And I even come off at half time and tried to get some more, thinking, oh no, I managed to set up a few tries and stuff like that. But I remember my defense wasn't great because I was sort of trying to hide out center, maybe a little bit, stay out of the road. And I'm thinking, I wonder how this happens. But through the week, I think John Hart was hunting around at that time. And it all sort of fell in. It was an opportunity. They offered me a contract. I rang Steve Price. Well, I think maybe old man rang Steve Price and just was like, what's it actually like there? Because I'd only ever been to Auckland, come in, play, straight back to the hotel and out. And so I didn't know the place. I always used to think, it's not really for me. But Pricey was just like, mate, this place is awesome. You'll love it. You'll get an opportunity. Like if you're playing good enough footy, you'll play. Do it. You got to do it. And it was literally all that I needed to hear. And I was like, okay, cool, done. We're going.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the Warriors have got a lot to thank Steve Price for, because he's been the catalyst to getting a few decent players over there. Yourself, Brent Tate, just a couple I think of off the top of my head.
Tatey definitely.
Pricey, what's it like over there?
Mate, well, he was one, I think he was insane. Like when he didn't think he'd ever leave the Dogs, and he went over to the Warriors, and what they did for him and Joe, sort of show them how they can be part of a big family there, and that's what they were. And obviously Pricey's the most famous Australian in New Zealand, so mate, he did well.
Yeah, he did, mate. Like we all loved him at the Warriors, and we loved yourself, obviously. It was I actually still remember where I was when I heard on the radio sport news that you had signed with the Warriors, and I was like, "You little beauty, we've got
Oh,
a good one."
really? Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
man.
see. I know.
No, I remember where I was. I was driving a work van at the time out in the
Yeah.
countryside doing some deliveries. And I was like, "Holy shit, we signed Michael Witt. That's great. What a
There
signing!"
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was getting married at the end of the year. So it was the bride. I was like, okay, cool. We're getting married. Quick honeymoon, and then I'm going to New Zealand. You're going back to Australia because I've got to try and get sorted. So yeah, that was an
Well,
interesting conversation. But yeah, awesome. Loved it.
oh, that's cool, man. So, what was your first impressions of New Zealand when you arrived in the country?
Well, I was tested when I got there, simply because I was living with Wade McKinnon. So Wade and I played together at Parramatta, knew each other from Parramatta, and so they put us up in a little unit together there in the city somewhere. So yeah, I was living with Wade for 2 or 3 weeks. So it tested me for sure, tested me.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, it was great fun. I mean, I just love the fact that all those big guys are on my team now, and I can stand behind them. So it was exciting. I remember, love the coaches, love the strength and conditioner walks. Like there's just so many good people there. Real good culture. There was a real, and I think it's just part of the reason I always say this, but why we were successful at that period of time was that we had such a great spread of cultures, spread of ages, spread of Aussies, Kiwis, young
yeah.
and old. We had a really, really good mix, and I think that's why threw that all into a pot, and yeah, it was great times.
So, you were saying you live with Wade McKinnon. Just,
Yeah,
I've got him on the show next week. If
have you?
it goes well, yeah, man, it's gonna be fun. What was he like to live with? Come on, I have to know. I need some dirt.
Ah, messy, but just like he's one of those guys that he sleeps at the drop of a hat. I'd always have to be like, Wado, let's go training. Oh, shit, getting himself ready. One of my favourite dudes to play with on the footy field. He just was a million miles an hour, did everything full tilt. Rat bag off the field as well. There's a couple of times, I think when I was there, he started getting in a bit of trouble with the referees, and so it became my responsibility. Woody, you know Wado good. Used to play together before. Start looking after him. I was like, okay, sweet. Keep him away from the referee. So I still remember there's a picture of he come out like in the Daily Telegraph or something. Wade spraying the referee, and I'm sort of no, and I've got my hand over his mouth as he's trying to yell at the referee. So he certainly kept me on my toes, but I love Wado, such a legend.
Oh, he is, mate. He was like my man crush in 2007. He was unbelievable. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, his footy at the Warriors, those couple of years, you're right, was unbelievable. He was another level. The best support player I've ever played with, I've ever watched 100%. Play. And a guy that, yeah, as I say, just loved having him on my team because you knew that he was going to do everything he could to win, like an ultimate competitor. Like he would spit the dummy if he lost. He just hated losing. So he would do whatever it took. And when I say whatever it takes, like whatever it takes. If he's got to bite you, scratch you, steal your car, whatever it meant, and he would win, he would do it.
Like I know like he was a great player, but did you see that season coming? Like it's fair to say he went another level when he came to the Warriors,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
He was good, but he went great.
Yeah, no, he was always a good player, always a really good player. I remember watching him play. He played with my older brother in the sort of juniors or reserve grade at Parramatta. So he was always a good player. Went to South there for a little while.
Yeah,
always good, always a good support player. But yeah, he definitely took his game to another level. And I think a lot of the fact we had a big forward pack that would always take us forward, who could offload the footy. That was just Wado's bread and butter because he always pushed so hard and always just sort of turned up in the right spot.
I don't think there's been another fullback like that in a long time. You know, Billy Slater was the king probably, but Wade was unreal at just hitting that short ball off Price or Luaki. I remember he did that quite a few times.
Yeah, no, you're right. He was, as I say, best support player I can think of. Best by 10 lengths.
Just messy as to live with.
Messy and challenging. always be like, all right, so now where we going? Where we going out? Like, I'm sure he's got ADD or he's always pumped up. Right, what are we doing? Okay, where we going now? And so I remember one of the one of the younger boys did something to his car. He goes, "That's it. We're going round to their house tonight. I'm ripping off all their car tyres. I'm rolling them down the hill. They're gone." I was like, no. And I remember the morning after that, we had a session at Bethel's Beach. So you have to be there at like 6 o'clock. I'm like, "Waiter, you can't do that. They'll miss training." "No, these young guys, they can't be doing what they did. No, it's not happening." He's always, we used to call him Tourette's because he just used to snap all the time. So good.
I can't wait to do the podcast with him. I can't wait. Going to be great. Along with Wade, obviously yourself, Michael Crockett, Aidan Kirk, and my man Corey Laurie from down here in Christchurch. You all signed with the Warriors. Love Panther. He's a great man.
The Panther. One of the greats.
He is awesome, man. You had like a really exciting, but I think also kind of underrated team as well. Like, because you'd come from a year of basically reserve grade. Grant Ravelli had kind of been in and out of, the top side. Wade had been in and out of the top side at Para. And all of a sudden, you guys, and Gaddis as well, who I had on a few days ago, you guys made an unbelievable spine that controlled and dominated attack.
Yeah, I think to be fair, as I said to you, it's a lot of that goes to the forward pack guys that were always taking us forward. So, as everybody knows, as a half or someone in the spine, it's a lot easier to play footy when your big guys do their job, and they certainly did. I mean, Price, Wiki up front, and then you got the class of like a Lawaki, Tulmavavi, these guys that have skills, crazy skills. That just was a perfect mix. And I guess, you're right. Rabsy he had the speed, the blistering pace. And then we had Fiend and Gaddis, sort of halves, nines. It was a good mix. Lance O'Hire there as well. So, just a good mix, man. And everybody just did their job. Those guys, those stars in the middle could always come up with something.
Yeah, man. Off the top of my head, I actually think Grant Ravelli was top equal try scorer for the club in 07.
Was he?
With Manu.
Yep.
Yeah, he was so underrated at like support play as well.
Yeah. Good support player. And had really, really he just had out and out pace, Rosie. And we gelled our games together. We're pretty good. I used to do sort of a lot of the organising, and Razzie would just pop up when there was an opportunity. He'd be there. He had a nice little kicking game too, like a short kicking game. An awesome dude, like a real one of the genuine good blokes. So awesome. That's all important too. Like the way a team gels, more than just your ability, the way that you hang out together and your mates, and that time was ticked all those boxes, and that's why we had a bit of success.
It absolutely did. How tough was Ivan Cleary as a coach? What did he guys put you through in the preseason, and how did he bring you guys together? Well, I guess you guys did it naturally, but what did he add to the mix?
Yeah, he was great. He was still pretty early in his coaching journey, I think, maybe second year, something like that. Yeah. The smart thing he did, he bought Craig Walker from the Roosters. Walks is just a legend, absolute legend. He knew when to push you. He knew how to deal with the Polynesian boys in terms of sometimes they just need a cuddle as opposed to a kick up the butt. He just did it perfect. He had everybody working hard. He had enough mix of old school training and new stuff, kept everybody on their toes. And he, again, like a really good bloke. Honest, genuine, hit you between the eyes if you needed it. So he was a big part of that, a real big part of that. Walks, I believe he's still at the Roosters. I think he's a football manager or one of the top guys there. And that's simply because the way he interacts with people. He's a people person. He was the one I give a lot of credit to. Obviously, the footy stuff, all Ivan, outstanding. Yep. But Walks took over that strength and conditioning. The conditioning stuff, we trained bloody hard. We trained bloody hard because it was always a thought that you only have to stay with the Warriors for the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then you'll start to play, you'll come through them at the end. And I think that was a bomb that Walks put under us. Like, you realise all these teams over there only think you've got to play for 20 minutes and you're not fit. So we're going to work hard, and we did that, and he got everybody on board. And I guess, I wouldn't say we were that successful because we didn't win the comp, but we were certainly at the top end of the table and played in some big games.
Well, it's funny you should say about the team saying you win an 80-minute side, but I think you definitely proved them wrong in that year, particularly with one play you put on for Toddy Bird to score in the last minute of the Rabbitohs game. I have
Yeah.
never celebrated a try so hard, man. That was unbelievable. I was on the ground
Funny you
in my
say
flat
that.
with 10 guys diving on me. It was crazy. It was so good. How did you come up with that play? Like, it was unbelievable.
Man, it was just one of those things, we're just playing. We're trying to come up with a try. I remember Wade McKinnon scored a couple of good tries that day with support.
I do.
And I got the ball, and I remember just seeing Skinny Burn pointing, and he was coming like from the back fence. So I just put it through, and lucky enough, he got the perfect bounce. But I actually saw last night, it might have been last night, the night before, they were talking about the Rabbitohs and how the Rabbitohs are struggling at the moment. And they brought up, who's their owner? Russell Crowe. Yeah. Russell Crowe. I remember Russell Crowe coming up on the big screen that day. He was on the big screen in his box, and they showed the video last night. So he'd just come out of being the gladiator. They were winning, and we started coming home. I think they were in front of us by a bit, and he put the finger out like this, and then the gladiator thing, and then he was like, and I just remember then they buzzed me after Toddy scored that try, and he was just like devastated. That's something that always stuck in my mind. It was the first thing I remember speaking to my wife afterwards. She goes, Russell Crowe was on there, and he was saying he's a dead, you're gone, and then you come back and got him. So it was that was an awesome win. I remember him putting the ball down and just running like a soccer player. Just took off and jumped into my arms, and we tackled each other and piled on. It was they're just things that I guess you forget about, but when someone brings them up, it's so cool, the memories. Yeah,
mate, that's one of the greatest wins. Like, that's up there in folklore because it was on the last play.
It was.
Kick. It was either a try or you guys lost. It was,
and it just fell perfectly. I just hit it right. It just got the perfect roll and run for the toddy, and literally just popped up to the bread basket like it was meant to be. Meant to be.
And the funny story about that is because I met Corey Laurie last year when I started the podcast, and he came on. It's like my third guest, and he was filthy about that.
He played in the wing, didn't he?
Yeah, he was so angry. He wasn't even happy you guys won. He was pissed off at walks because I was just so filthy. I was put on the wing.
That's right. We had a couple of injuries, and I remember him getting moved to the wing, and he's like, "What, me?" Yeah. He was just that. He's such a good dude. Such a good dude.
Man.
He just when he was playing first grade or reserve grade, he was always had that energy, and that's the one thing about Panther. Like, he was actually one who contacted me about coming on here, and I was like, any friend of his is a friend of mine. He's one of the real characters. I think he still plays, doesn't he? Like, he's about 110, but he still plays
a bit of. He's finished up in Premier grade in Canterbury, he's like coaching and playing B grade.
Yeah, right.
Still going.
Just loves it.
The legend. He
loves it. How good.
Can't stop. He can't stop. He's so cool. There's also another moment in that game. The ball was kicked at his big bald head. It was being replayed and replayed.
That's right. I remember that coming up.
Try something, and it was just like, get me out of here.
You're right. I remember that coming up in video. Yeah, something in that. If you look at the stadium down the right hand close side, I'm sure he was on the wing there and it hit him in the head. Did we score a try or something happened with him getting hit in the head? I remember that being in video session. He was so embarrassed.
Oh, it was so funny. How good was that? Right. So round 12, you guys have had a bit of a you started strong, and then you sort of had a bit of a string of losses. And then that magical sideline conversion you kicked, it was when you actually became the Warriors goal kicker. You kicked this ridiculous goal in this like tornado. There was wind going everywhere. Yeah. It was pissing down. You guys won something like 12 to resurrect the season. Whose decision was it for you to goal kick? Was someone injured?
Tony Martin was the goal kicker the week before. I think he got injured late in the game, so I kicked a couple of goals. So he was out the next week. Or he might, I think he was out because he was out. I think it might have been his ribs or something from memory. So he didn't play. So then I sort of took over the duties and, evidently hit him all right. So he was like the incumbent goal kicker when I got there. I hadn't been playing that much first grade either. So Ivan's like, I don't want you to worry about your goal kicking. Just let him do it. Okay. Which is cool. And then when I got an opportunity, I was hitting them pretty good. And, yeah, so I think I just stayed on his kick, and he hated me for it. His wife Mel gets into me and he goes, "Oh, good on you, Witty. You're a real nice friend. You took his job, and then they didn't need him in the team anymore." She always gets into me. Me and Marto are great mates. I actually caught up with him last weekend. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, yeah, good times.
But mate, that goal you kicked, that was like an impossible goal to kick. And I don't think people like on myself because I didn't know you'd done that much goal kicking because you'd been in reserve grade the year before. So
Yeah,
didn't know that much about your goal kicking. And then you just kicked
yeah.
a goal like, what the hell? That was mental. And then you went on like a crazy run of kicking goals. It was, I
Yeah.
think you kicked quite a few in a row at one point.
Yeah, someone asked me about this the other day, and I think we worked out it was 28 before I missed.
Wow.
I think I did 28 in a row. Yeah, I mean, I'd always been a goal kicker ever since I come into first grade. I think the first game I played, I wasn't the goal kicker, and the goal kicker got hurt, and I was goal kicker from then on. Kicked at Manly, and so yeah, always goal kicker, always practiced. But yeah, at that point in time, I hit in a little sweet spot there where I just felt like I couldn't really miss.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
you did that the week after that Sharks game. You guys destroyed Penrith, if you remember. The Wade McKinnon try, 54-14. You kicked half a dozen goals, and you guys scored
Yeah,
something like 9 tries. I can't remember the exact number, but what a
yeah.
game! That was that like the moment your guys' season took off?
Yeah, I just say I can remember being in that tough period where we couldn't win games, and we went to Cronulla. It was raining, it was horrible, it was windy. We
Yeah,
didn't play awesome. We didn't play awesome, but we just somehow scrapped out a win, and that was the catalyst, I guess, to get us back on winning run. And yeah, then we had a good run from there. I think we maybe went 7 or 8 straight. So
yeah.
yeah, just sometimes it's tough. Momentum's a crazy thing in sport, and you just need to find a way to get that win and get yourself out of that loser's circle. And we did that at Cronulla, and then we had a good patch.
Yeah, man. How'd you rate that Wade McKinnon try? Like, is that not one of the best solo tries of all time?
Yes, one of the best times of all time. I do actually remember that try. Just crazy, and I remember being like right near him at the end, going pass, 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 and he didn't pass it to me. He scored himself, and I remember picking up and going, "You're lucky you scored that because you should have passed that to me. I was going to score." I think I might have already got a try or two, and I was like, "Man, you should have passed that." I looked at the video; he did totally the right thing, but in my head at the time, I'm just looking at the pill. But yeah, one of the absolute cracking try
Amazing,
kick
eh?
return, wasn't it? Yeah.
I just don't know. He must have beat like 8 or 9 guys. He'd have run out the bloody stadium if the line wasn't there. He was just unstoppable.
That was him. He never succumbed to any tackle in his whole career, Wado. He made you come in full tilt. You couldn't tackle him half-assed because he'd just
Yeah,
bump you off. So he just always challenged the defensive line. And that day, yeah, he had spiders on him.
that's unreal. As a team, you guys were on fire. Like, yeah, it was a pretty unreal because you guys touched up Newcastle. You smashed St. George-Illawarra. You guys just you got on a hell of a roll, and then you finished fourth on the ladder going into the
We did.
playoffs.
Yep.
And I think you beat Penrith in the last round in Penrith, so that's a pretty awesome
Mm,
effort. And that knocked
yep.
knocked you into fourth place, and to bring you back home for the blackout. What's it like
Yeah.
to come home
Wow.
for that blackout match?
That was that was just a different something I'd never seen before. Like we obviously talked about the blackout and what was going to happen, and running out to the stadium. I always used to sort of get out, run out in the field. I used to love running out that tunnel at Mount Smart, which they don't
Yeah,
do anymore. But used to love running out that with the fire and the drums and everything. I'd always make it a part of my sort of routine to run out to the middle of the field and sort of have a look around. And then sort of take it all in and then go, okay, sweet, doesn't matter now, it's just footy. But I
yeah,
remember running out that day and just being blown away, just like, wow, look at this crowd. And they're all going nuts, all just in black.
wow,
Amazing. Amazing. So it was obviously a lot better the next year when we had a blackout and we actually won. But
yeah,
yeah, it was pretty special.
yeah. Unfortunately, you guys went down, Para. Pretty tough match. Like you guys were sort of had the running of play, but then Para seemed to turn it around. But
Mm,
and then you guys had to go to bloody North Queensland in the
yeah.
heat, and,
Yeah.
and you guys got towed up. But pretty awesome though. Awesome season, for you guys.
Yeah, it was. I think, and again, I think the Warriors hadn't played finals for a little while. Pardon me. I think the year before they probably would have played finals if they didn't lose points from memory.
That's right.
Yep. So it's just good to get notice that we're in that right trajectory. Ivan was doing some great stuff. The boys are playing good. So, not what you want to do to play semi-finals and go out in straight sets, but certainly something that I think we learnt from. And prepared us for the next year, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, before I move on to 2008, there's one amazing match. It was that 31-all draw against the Roosters where you kicked a clutch field goal with a couple seconds left. It looked like you guys were gone. It was such a great match, back and forth, the score. Like, the Roosters got out early. You guys caught up. Then they scored a couple. You scored a couple.
Yeah.
So Freddie kicked the field goal, and then you kind of got one out of nowhere. You guys were in horrible field position, and you guys wow, what a goal.
That's it's actually one of those games they play on Fox Sports all the time over here. Like, they play old games, and that's obviously a pretty entertaining game. So you see that one a little bit. And I sometimes do the same thing. I watch and think, I must have been so nervous, like, to kick that. We were down by 1 point, and there was only a couple of seconds to go. But it kind of just, when you're in that bubble, it just, I don't know, you just don't think of those things. You're just playing to win. But I remember that being a cracking game. Epahama Lawaki was awesome that day. Scored one, set up a couple. He was big, coming off the bench for us.
His best game as a Warrior, probably.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think so. From my memory, anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, what a game. That's one of the great ones. Honestly, I was just on the edge of my seat watching that. I don't know how you kicked that goal. That's crazy.
I do actually remember right at the end, they got a repeat set. And I remember Walks running out and going, should we do a short dropout or just kick it as long as we can? And I was like, I think long. He goes, just smash it as hard as you can, so that they couldn't get another shot at field goal. And I watched it a few weeks back, months back even. I hit the best drop out of my life. I think I kicked it like 60 on the fly. It just launched it. Awesome. And we held on the end. And that's the days when it's, it was still early days for Golden Point. So it was, pretty cool.
Yeah, man. So George Gaddis and Ruin Hammer, you remember those boys, they want to say hello. And Ruin Hammer want you to tell us your side of the epic George Gaddis hate crime story and his unbelievable retaliation to you guys pranking him all the time.
Did Georgie tell you the story?
Georgie did.
Right.
Great.
Well, he's leaned into his favour and he's probably lying. So what happened was you would always just leave. Everyone had their own lockers. I'll try and keep a long story short, but his towel was in the locker and everybody would always use George's towel. Just always use it. He used to get filthy. And obviously, when you're in an environment like that, the angrier you get, the more people decide to keep doing it.
Of course.
So that had happened for a fair while. I actually never did it. I was like, that repulsed me to use someone else's towel. It like freaked me out. So it was never me. But the day that it happened, Tony Martin was sitting beside me, and I think he did it. He did it, and George came in and flipped it. Now Georgie's got that switch, right? When he gets angry, you see the steam. He gets red. He starts frothing in his mouth. He's like, oh. So he's blowing up, and I'm sort of laughing. He's filthy at me. He's like, Witty, you did it. I said, I didn't do anything. Don't. He goes, you know who did it? I said, mate, I don't know who did it. He goes, yes, you did. I'm not telling you. I don't know. I'm not saying anything. So left training. Didn't think any more of it until I could send a video on my phone of George, and he's at our lockers, and he's like, right. So he's living with Michael Luck at the time. So Lucky was encouraging him, saying, you won't do it, George. You won't do it. So he gets everything out of my locker in a black garbage bag. And I'm watching him. He sends a video. He gets everything out of Marto's locker and puts it in a black garbage bag. He's like, if you don't tell me who did it, there's going to be consequences. And I just, whatever. He's not going to do anything. Then the next video comes. He's at Ellerslie petrol station. He's literally got the black garbage bag with the Bowser in it, putting petrol into the garbage bag. I'm telling you now, if you don't tell me what's that, I'm going to burn it. I'm going to burn it. And he's losing his mind. So we're thinking, this guy's going crazy. Anyway, the next video is, he goes, it's your last chance. If you don't call me now, He was at Ellerslie Eagles footy field. I'm sure he was up the back there. And he goes, "That's it. Sorry, boys, you're gone." And I thought, I don't think my stuff's really in there. Next minute, he sets it all on fire. And you can hear Lucky behind the camera going, "Oh, George is getting a bit out of hand, George. Oh, George, you better put it out, George." And then you start to hear like a fire engine coming. It's like, "Shit, George, let's go. We've got to go. We've got to run." So he burnt everything in my locker, everything I had, everything in Marto's locker, all got burnt because they'd use his towel. I didn't even do one thing wrong, but I was a victim of circumstance. He just flipped it. And then in true Gaddis fashion, the next day they're like, "Oh, you've..." I'm like, "George, you burned all my kicking tees. Like, I can't kick anymore." Like, "Oh." And then he starts flipping out. He's so regretful. And then he's like, "Oh, here, you can use my Warriors hat." And, "Oh, you burned all my boots, George. Like, what are you going to do for boots?" "Oh, you can wear my boots." Like, he was so regretful. But when little Hornigy snaps, he snaps. And that day he definitely snapped.
That's awesome. That's such a good story. Like, who does that?
Exactly.
Oh, guilty by association, Witty. That's what it is.
Absolutely. But I stayed strong.
So
I didn't
good.
give him in.
Have you got any good stories from your trip to Vegas? Oh, Gaddis told me a shallow hell moment. That was hilarious.
A shallow hell moment. Tell me that one.
Oh, well, he'd had enough of you guys picking on him for the comedy that you all walked out of.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd had enough of you guys picking on him for, "Oh, thanks, Gaddis, for wasting our money on this crap." Blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. So he gets on the piss. He's self-isolated. He's got drunk and he's dancing with some, let's be honest, she wasn't pretty. And you'll try to pull him away and rescue him. And he's like, "Nah, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I'm good."
Yes. That's right. So he took us to Rita Rudner or something like that. And we're watching it. We're going, "This is rubbish, George. How did you pick her?" And he's like, "There's a sign on the strip. It says best comedian in Vegas." I'm like, "Oh, right." So I still remember because I lost a bet during the day. I lost a bet during the day with the boys. So I pulled the short straw. It was then my job to stand up in the middle of the, what do you call it, concert, or the middle of the comedian, and heckle her. And I had to heckle her so that she would smash me. And I was like, "Oh, right, okay, cool." So I stood up and give some heckle, and she sort of just looked at me and didn't say anything. And I was like, "Oh, sweet, got away with that." And then the boys were like, "No, that's not good enough. You've got to heckle her again. Say, like, that's a cheap joke," or whatever it was. So I got up and heckled her again, and she still didn't hammer me. And all the boys went, "Nah, that's it. Let's go." We all walked out mid concert, mid thing. Oh, sorry, dog's jumping up. So yeah, mid show, we walked out, and Georgie copped the brunt of all that too. And we always used to get into George because he'd always bite. So you just give it a little poke, and he would snap out. And yeah, I do remember that him on the dance floor.
Gaddis, Grant Ravelli showed up the next morning. He's like, "Gaddis, we were trying to rescue you." And he's like, "No, you weren't. You're just trying to ruin my night." And he's like, shows him the phone. He's like, "Revs, if you value our friendship, you will delete this picture."
Yes. I remember, and we're all laughing at him, and they're going, "Oh, but no, I'm not taking this anymore." I literally went out onto the dance floor and said, "Georgie, that'll do. Let's go." And he sprayed me. "No, Witty, you're a grub. You're just trying to ruin my time here, and you're always picking on me." And I was like, "Georgie, you think they're all your mates? They're all laughing. I'm actually trying to help you here." Nah, he spat it. Didn't want any part of it. Then I think he snuck off. He left, and I'm sure he won a heap of cash on the table, but he didn't tell any of us because he didn't want to shout. Because that's the other thing that George doesn't do. He would not shout if a shark bit him.
Oh, that's gold. Love it. Oh, mate. Right, let's talk some footy. 2008. You guys signed Brent Tate. Ian Henderson came in because Gaddis went home. Everything's looking rosy. You've got a really strong squad. If anything, probably, adding Brent Tate to the back line's got to help. What was the general vibe heading into the season?
Just hopefully we're trying to build on what we did the year before. As you said, we got a taste of finals footy, and we wanted to be there again. So more of the same, really.
Yeah. And was it Wade? He went down with an ACL pre-season.
So we lost Wade pretty much the whole year. Then Lance O'Hire started playing fullback, but to be fair, Lance O'Hire was unreal. He was one of our best players all year playing fullback. So he sort of found himself at centre, bit off the bench playing hooker, sort of all around because he's a jack of many trades, Lani, wherever you put him. He was good, but he was awesome that year at fullback, was one of our best players. And he was a big reason that we sort of had the year or got to where we needed to.
Kind of came out of nowhere, picking him for fullback. Like he'd never really played fullback before.
No.
Like he was the ultimate utility player. I think he was like the pinnacle of utility players. He could put him anywhere.
He was, because he has really good skills. He's tough. He runs hard. He's not scared of contact. So he could play in the halves, play in the centres. Great feet, and obviously play at fullback. So great player. Great player.
Yeah, one of the best from the Waikato. What a good boy. That's where I'm from. So yeah. So what happened to you during the season? You had a bit of a gap where you went missing through the middle of the year. What happened there?
Yeah, I during one of the games I tore my quad muscle off the bone.
Nasty.
Yeah, doing a goal kick actually in a game. It was a penalty goal. It was a horrible day. I remember Lucky was the captain that day. He said, "Take the 2." Awesome. So as I went my leg back, it just snapped off the bone, the muscle, the rec fem, the one at the front. So I think I missed the ball altogether, kicked the tee, and it sort of just rolled and play on. End up having to obviously get that sorted, missed that stint in the middle of the season.
Actually, on recollection, I think I remember that kick. You kind of pulled up quite lame from the actual kick, didn't you? Yeah.
I did, and it was kind of like, it was funny, like, when he missed the ball, is clown, how rubbish is he? But it was the fact that as my leg went back, it popped off. So, just one of those things. It was Lucky's fault for making me kick a penalty goal.
I should have gone for the try, Lucky. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys got on a real roll towards the end of the year. You needed to win quite a lot of your games, but you did it. You did the whole growing the facial hair thing. Whose idea was that? And there's some pretty great beards and moustaches going on out there.
There were some horrible ones too, including mine. But I still remember that. I like to think I was a part of that. So I remember we used to obviously go in alphabetical order as you ride the plane. I remember being on the plane next to Walks, our trainer. Yep. He's reading a Sports Illustrated. In the Sports Illustrated, they're looking at the ice hockey and the NHL. They apparently grow beards when it gets to finals time. And we're looking at that and we're like, how cool would that be? Like, and he goes, "Do you reckon the boys will do it?" I said, "Yeah, I reckon everybody will." "Oh, maybe not Pricey." He goes, "No, we'll get Pricey to do it." So we decided that that's what we're going to do. We had a meeting in Rubes' room. I think Pricey might not have been playing. And it was Rubes' 300th game against the Tigers. So we had a meeting in Rubes' room. We all went to his room and we made a pact that we're all going to grow some sort of facial hair. You have to have some sort of facial hair. And the other pact was you're not allowed to talk about it. No one talks about it. So for, I reckon, years and years and years, no one spoke about it. I saw an interview Simon Mannering did, and I reckon that was probably 10, 12 years after the fact. And so I was like, okay, so he's talking about it. Now we can talk about it. I never said a word till then. So it was just, make sure you got some sort of facial hair. Every time somebody asked about it, it was just, sort of didn't really notice that the boys are. So they knew we were throwing off. And then they started making their own conclusions of why we did it. And it was supposed to be for Ruben Wiki and his 300th or his last year or whatever. That wasn't really it. It was just we decided we were all buying into it. We did it. We started winning. So we just kept doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So cool.
It was pretty cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember people started turning up to games with big beards and that on. It was unreal.
That's what I love about rugby league people. Is, they jump on board. And we don't care if we look stupid. We love it. It's great fun.
Yeah. I remember going on one of the sports shows over there, and the makeup lady, she's like, do you mind if I put a bit of eyeliner in your mustache because it's pretty ginger. I was like, oh yeah, sure, no problem at all.
Oh, that's the Scottish coming through,
Terrible, like 80s porno mo I had. It was horrible, but it ticked the box. Had
Yes.
some facial hair.
Yeah, mate, that's so funny.
Only a
So
little bit.
you guys had an amazing finish to the season. You went into the playoffs, you qualified, you're in eighth, you're playing Melbourne in Melbourne. It's no one's ever beaten first place from eighth before. You guys were
Yeah.
way outsiders. How did you guys prepare as a team and get up for that game? That was so big.
Yeah, I go back to Walks. Like I remember him sort of driving a lot of it. The fact that we were just making up the numbers. No one expects us to win. No one cares. No one wants a team from New Zealand in the finals. All that sort of stuff. We're just going to go and get bullied by Melbourne. That's what they do down there.
Yeah.
We went over super confident. We always played well against Melbourne. It was a pack that we weren't going to get bullied by them. Walks drove all that. I remember start of the game. I've told the story a few times, but the start of the game, we run out in the field and they always make you wait out there, Melbourne, and then they run through their big banner.
Yes.
So we decided we were going to stand like in a line, like in a group, almost like 300, the Spartan Warriors. We were just going to stand there. And as they run through their thing, we were just waiting for them just to say like, okay, it's game on here today. And pretty tough game. And then obviously, really close, and we got away with it in the end.
You did. So yes, let's talk about that last try. Everyone loves that last try. Everyone wants to know. A lot of questions on the Facebook group for this one.
Yeah.
So one of the great tries in Warriors folklore.
Yeah.
Because the try itself was unbelievable, right? You've got 2 minutes left. Did you actually start the movement by getting it wide to Jerome?
Yeah, I did. So started. I think one thing that I've neglected to talk about a lot of times, we just talk about the boys in the play, but is Aiden Kirk. I remember they kicked it. They kicked it into our in goal, and Aiden Kirk just made an awesome catch, an awesome catch that he had every right to drop or not even get to or let bounce. Just had an awesome catch. Not sooner did he catch the ball, hit the deck, he'd thrown the ball back to the 20-metre line. And basically had a couple of hit-ups, and I just got the ball and passed it to Jerome, we did a lot during the year, like just a long ball to Jerome and let him go one-on-one with his centre because he had great feet and he dished up a lot of people through the year. We put him, he was on Israel Folau, he beat Izzy and gave it to Big Manu, and the way it sort of just played out, I managed to sort of support and that, like Manu gives me like a one-hand pass. Like the dude's 120 kilos, running down the sideline with one-hand flick ball, and it was just meant to be, right? It was just, it was meant to be.
Well, obviously you must have felt that it was on because you were there in support. Like it's like you just popped up out of nowhere because you weren't really on screen while Jerome and Manu were, on focus from the camera. And then all of a sudden, holy shit, Witt's there in support. What?
Yeah, I think that's something I used to try and do is just pass the ball and sort of just push through the middle in the chance that something does happen, you're going to turn up. And that day those guys did like super stuff to get in the open. And I was going to go down the outside, but then Manu sort of went wide, so I tucked myself back into the middle, and a passing lane managed to pop up, and the big guy throwed it through one-handed and hit me nice.
Right. So the big question everyone wants to know is the ball up in the air. Before you put it down, Cam Smith's coming over, chasing, nearly kicks it out of your hands. Get the ball down, son. That's the call from the commentator. What's going through your mind in that few seconds?
Man, the amount of times I've been asked about this since I've finished playing it. Sometimes I literally walk through Pacific Fair down here on the Gold Coast, a big shopping centre, and someone will just yell out, "Put the ball down, Michael!" Like, and I'm just like,
well, yeah,
never lived it down. But there was a theory behind it. It didn't turn out that way, but my whole idea was to run, get into the in goal. I knew Big Blair was chasing me, so I knew he'd keep running through because he couldn't stop. And I was just going to stand in the in goal and waste time. You watch dudes like play sevens rugby all the time. They get over the line and they just wait and try and run the clock down. So that was my plan. I was just going to stand in the corner and run the clock down. stupid me. Like, how was I? Of course, the ultimate professional, Cam Smith's going to chase me, right? I didn't see Smithy at all. And when I saw him, like, I didn't know till the replay, to be honest with you, and this is hand on heart, I didn't know till the replay that I sort of put the ball up. Like, I thought I'd just put it down. There was no drama there, but yeah, plenty of time. He was miles away.
Nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about here. Nothing to see here.
So, what were the repercussions from that little try scoring act there? Did you get like sprayed by the team and Cleary?
I didn't get sprayed by Ive. He was sweet. I remember him telling me he thought when I stopped in the in-goal that they called the playback. If you watch then on TV, they go up to Ivan and he's watching like going, yeah. And then he goes, and looks back because he thought that they'd pulled up something. So he was sweet. Obviously, well, in saying that, he told me he was sweet. And about 3 or 4 weeks later, he asked me to leave the club. So maybe he wasn't sweet. But at the time, he said, yeah, it was sweet, no big deal. Obviously, if I didn't put it down, I would have got a butt kicking. But I remember Pricey was cranky, like, what were you doing? Don't ever do that again. I was like, calm down, old boy. Like, there's plenty of time. Don't worry about it. We're all good. We scored, we win.
Yeah, wins in the bag, Price. Calm down. Go have a shave.
Chill out. Chill out.
Oh, good. So you got through that game. One of the great victories in the Warriors history. Like that was the first ever team to beat a first place team from 8th. Very special.
Yep.
Another and buzzer beater. You know, you guys are good at that side. You know, you guys always hung in there for 80 minutes, like you said. You came home for another blackout. It's that Roosters game. I was very lucky to get tickets for that game because I had season tickets.
Wow, you were lucky.
You had to actually drive, because I lived in Hamilton. I had to drive to Auckland and get tickets. But it was actually my mate Greg. So I had to work. Him and his dad, who we had tickets with, they managed to secure us some seats. It was hard, man. Even as a season member, that was
unbelievable.
That's
my favourite footy memory. That one right there, just going home to that. I still remember going back to training. I've told this story again a few times with some of the Warriors podcasts. They had a temporary stand built at the end of the stadium. And that was obviously built when we were in Melbourne playing. And Wayne Scarra, who was the CEO at the time, said, no, I was super confident you were going to win. So I knew we'd have a stand there and we'd sell it out. And so we were just like, wow, like these guys, they're right behind us. They're willing to do whatever it took to help us out. So that was the first memory. And then running out, blacked out, like, wow. And I was told again, like, you talk to blokes that, you know, I wasn't lucky enough to play, or good enough, not good enough to play Origin or Test matches. You talk to Pricey and Tatey, and they talk about that game as being one of the best experiences they've ever had. And that includes Origin games. So when they're putting it on that pedestal, you're like, okay, yeah, cool. I was really lucky to experience something like that.
Well, as a fan who'd followed the Warriors from, you know, pretty close to the start of their existence, it was unbelievable to be there. Like, and it was a final. It was at home. It was against the Roosters, who we hate because they knocked us out of the grand final. Like, it couldn't have been a better script. And then that Ruben Wiki run where he knocked out Soliola, like that was literally right in front of me. That was crazy.
That's
like,
right.
What a game! What a
actually
player.
a couple of years ago, I got a little story there. A couple of years ago, I got sent something on Instagram from a guy who at the time was the Roosters trainer.
Okay.
And he goes, he sent me a video, and it's him. I'm right on the sideline kicking a goal, and he comes flying in front of me and stops right in front of me. And I remember feeling it and seeing it happen, and I got the goal. I still kicked it, but he sent me a message going, do you remember this? I was sent down by Brad Fittler to try and put you off. So his job was to try and run and, to try and put me off. And then I was watching the video going, wow, like, did he really tell you to do that? He's like, yeah. It's like a secret, never come out, but he told me to run down and put you off.
Crazy.
Like, wow, okay. Yeah.
Pretty, you bastard.
So, yeah, you can go. He sent me a video on it, so you can obviously have a look at it. It's pretty like, it's pretty blatantly obvious. He just comes storming by. But luckily enough, it still managed to go through. So, but yeah,
you won pretty comfortably in the end. You guys ran away with it in the second half. You're actually down at half time, if I recall.
Yeah, I think we. I don't know if we were down or up. I'm not sure, but I know it was really close at half time, 2 or 4 points. And I remember Ivan telling me that week at training, like, kick it at the goalpost pads when you're trying to get a repeat set. We did that early on. I hit the goalpost pad and Lance High scored.
He
I
did.
think it might have been the first try.
Yep.
So that's another Ivan Cleary special. But yeah, it was really close, and I think you're right. We did put a few on in the end and get away with it.
Yeah, you mentioned Aiden Kirk before. I thought that was his probably best ever game in the Warriors jersey. Probably those two finals matches. He was unreal. I think he scored at least one try in that match. And had a
I'm pretty
really,
sure he
really
scored
good
that day. I
time.
think he might have got an intercept and gone the length.
Yes.
Turkey in that one. Was it right at the end, maybe? But
yep.
He was a guy. He was a really good player. He come to the Warriors. He just come off missing a season with a knee reconstruction, I believe. And he was a Roosters junior, and that's obviously where I knew him from. So yeah, he's a good player. Real solid. Kirky, real solid. Real quiet guy. Just did his job. No fuss.
Yeah, man. So that qualified you to the prelim final against your old foe Manly. Not a great day out for the club, to be fair. You guys got a bit of a touch up, but what was the feelings like heading into that? Were you guys sort of burnt out from playing such high octane footy for 2 weeks?
Well, we didn't feel like we were at the time, but like in hindsight, we probably were a little bit. But everybody was just pumped to get back to Sydney and play footy and play in a big game. Look, at the end of the day, I think Manly's not there that year. We win the GF, but Manly were, when I say hot, they were white hot. White hot. They come out the next week and beat Melbourne 40-0 in the grand final. I don't think what would have happened. Like, we probably didn't have our best game that day, but they were, I think, head and shoulders above the rest of the comp that year, and they went on to win it easily, and would have been great to obviously avoid them and play them in the big show, but we had to beat the top team and then the second team to get ourselves in the grand final, which is a tough ask, but they were just too good for us, to be honest.
Yeah. Still another. It was really nice at the time, Warriors to go deep into the finals 2 years in a row. And we've been starved of success for quite some time, the fans. So
yeah, that's it.
And then what puzzled everybody was all of a sudden yourself, Grant Ravelli, Nathan Feen left mid-season, I think. All just disappear over the ice. Did you actually play any preseason matches? I thought you did. At North Harbour?
No,
I play the Cowboys. I don't know if you played that match.
I might have played. I don't know. I might have played reserve grade, or maybe I didn't play. I don't know whether I played any trials, but I still did the preseason. But through the whole thing, that sort of we all had end of year meetings, as every club does, and all three of us were told that we weren't needed anymore and to get out and go find a new club. So obviously the club and Ivan and were going in a different direction. We all still had contracts to stay and play, but they changed. I think they obviously felt like they needed something else to come in to get them to the next level, and which was very, very upsetting, frustrating. I had an offer sort of 3 or 4 weeks before to go to England with like ridiculous money, and I just said no, I'm happy here. They're like, no, we want you to stay here. I'm like, perfect. So I didn't want to leave, and then 3 weeks later they told me, no, you got to go, because I still remember him telling me you'll never play first grade at this club ever again, and I was like, oh, that's like a dagger to the heart, right?
Really?
So that's just the way it played out. I mean, obviously, I'm a bit older now, and I can look back and I can understand that that's coach's decision. He made a call, and it is what it is. You move on. Again, that's professional sport, but certainly wasn't what I wanted to do. I know it wasn't what Rabsy wanted to do, or Nathan Feen. Although it worked out pretty good for Nathan Feen. He left halfway through the season and won a comp.
Pretty handy premiership up his sleeve. So, did anything happen behind the scenes? Because, from a fan perspective, you guys have won. Well, you've made gone deep into the finals 2 years in a row. We're looking like a really good attacking side, and then just see you later. It makes no sense. From the outside.
No, I think no, it didn't make sense to me at the time. It probably doesn't that much now, but I can understand it. The coach has got to make his call on what he wants to do. But we certainly were shocked when we turned up to our meeting and we're told in no uncertain terms that we weren't needed. So no, there was, not to my knowledge, that anything happened off the field or we weren't in any trouble or anything like that. It's just the club had decided they wanted to go on a different path, and I still remember talking to Steve Price. He said, they're telling me you're looking to leave. I said, well, I have to. He said, no, you don't. I was like, well, I told Ivan I wanted to stay and I'd train hard and prove that I'm, worthy of position or whatever. And Ivan said to me that I'll never play first grade here ever again. He's
Just
like,
like
he
that.
wouldn't have said that. He wouldn't have said that. I'm like, Pricey, he told me that. And so the next day, Pricey came to me and was like, far out. Like, sorry, man. Like, he did say that. I spoke to him. Like, yeah, they want you out. And I was like, yeah, so I've got to make the move.
Do you think it had anything to do with the fact Stacey Jones and Joel Moon were signed in the halves?
Well, Stacey wasn't. Oh, actually, Stacey was signed, but they told me, yeah, Joel Moon was coming to play 5'8". He's going to be the 5'8", no matter what. No matter what I did in the preseason, no matter what training I did, that's the path they were going. He's their 5'8". Yeah, there's no space for me. So that obviously, yeah, was a bit of a kick in the butt, or in the nuts, really.
Yeah, kicking the dick for sure.
But so they just told me that I wasn't playing. So he was going to be their 5'8". Obviously, that sort of didn't really work out. And halfway through the season, I think they'd changed, and I think Lance High was playing 6, but it didn't work out.
No.
But yeah, it certainly wasn't my choice to leave. Myself and my wife were stoked to be there, loved it. My wife was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was never ever our plan to leave. And being told 3 weeks before that I was in the team's long-term future, we were starting to look. We were literally looking to buy a house because we were renting at the time, and just things changed pretty quickly in professional sport.
Yeah. Well, as a fan, we're sorry you had to be moved on. We were all mystified. We couldn't believe it, to be honest. I just thought after so much success, I just don't know why. You just needed that little bit, 1% more, and you could have won a grand final, who knows? Maybe if
I mean, just one of those things, right? It's one of those things. I mean, it didn't really work out, but then there's plenty of calls that Ivan's made since then that are perfect. So just is what it is. We lost Sonny Fye that preseason.
Yeah.
I think that had a bit of a dampener on things as well. So a lot of things culminated for it, but it wasn't a good year. I guess for myself and for the Warriors, 2009 that would have been.
Yeah, it's just a pretty rough one. So you moved on to have a stint for Otago Rugby Union, and I got a question from Michael Howell. He wants to know, how did the code switch come about, and did you have any other NRL teams looking at you? And did you want to play Union?
First, yes, I did have other NRL teams want me to go there. Melbourne was one of those.
Oh, wow.
Which would have been a little bit strange. But I don't know how that came out in the media, but we were talking to Melbourne. They just didn't have any. It was a financial decision, to be honest with you. The reason I didn't go to Melbourne, they didn't have the money to sort of facilitate it. John Hart was at the Warriors at the time. He was really trying to push me to go to rugby union. He thought that I could be good at rugby union. I met with the All Blacks assistant coach, Wayne Smith, at the airport one day, and he's like, you need to come play rugby. Like, we have a shortage of 12s in this country, and we want you to come and do that. So I signed a contract with New Zealand Rugby Union, and a contract with turned out to be Otago. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What a change. Like, who saw that coming when you moved to New Zealand to play for the Warriors? Like, wow.
Certainly not me. Certainly not me. But I guess there was parts of my game that sort of changed over pretty good with rugby union. Obviously, goal kicking, and my kicking game was probably one of my strengths. So there was certainly some things that you would think that would make me a decent rugby union player. And then once I made the decision, I was pretty excited by the challenge and everything that come with it. But it is what it is.
Yeah, man. So you played about 7 games for Otago in the NPC level. Like, did you actually enjoy it? And how did you cope with that transition?
Yeah, I did like it. It's different. They're totally like different athletes, different game. So stop start. It wasn't as flowing. I didn't enjoy it probably as much as rugby league. And then the opportunity to go back to rugby league. They were going to put me in the Highlanders squad, but not to play. I think I was sort of in the wider squad. They wanted me to do another 12 months, and I just thought that if I didn't jump now, that if I had another quiet year or things didn't didn't sort of go to plan, then I wouldn't have worked great. And I had a 2-year offer to go overseas, and so we decided to sort of cut ties and get over there.
So that was with the Welsh Super League side, the Crusaders. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So were they quite a new side when you went over there?
Yeah, they were. They'd only just been promoted to Super League. I think they'd done 1 year in Super League, and they were getting a few players in. The other big reason is Tony Martin was there, who's I play with the Warriors, great mate of mine, and he was like, come. We'll sort of, get back to what we used to do. And so that was a big decision. His wife and my wife got on great. So that sort of made the decision a fair bit easier.
Okay.
And we just decided to jump and go for it.
Do you have much success with the Crusaders in your time there?
Yeah, the first year was really good. I think we missed the semis late in the year, but we were pretty close. I was leading the player of the year for a long period of time, which was good. I was playing some decent footy. Then I did my knee, missed the back end of the year. The second year was a bit of a fight, but we were always sort of mid-table-ish. And then things sort of went pretty bad there in terms of the owner of the club. He pulled all his money out and just said, "There's no more club here anymore." So I just literally re-signed for another 3 years. But a couple of weeks later, he pulled the pin, and things were a little bit different in the Super League. There's not the support like the NRL gives clubs here. It was just like, oh, okay, if the guy who's the owner who's paying the bill said he's not going to do it, then it is what it is. There's no more Crusaders.
That's it. That's the end. So what did you do then? What was the next step? Did you come back to the Dragons? Is that what happened next?
No, I actually signed. I went to the London Broncos for a couple of years.
Oh, you did too.
It was really, really disappointing what happened there at the Crusaders, because we were starting to get a really good following. For the locals. And there's a show on TV now called We Are Wrexham. And it's on Disney Channel. It's the Wrexham Football Club, and they play at the Racecourse Stadium, which is where we used to play. And they've got a couple of Hollywood owners that have bought the club. And you should see that town has just changed, man. It's just so awesome watching it. And I think that's where we were heading as a rugby league club. We were starting to get, no one even knew what rugby league was when we turned up, and the time we left, we were getting really good crowds. But things just fell apart. But if you watch that documentary, We Are Wrexham, it's unbelievable what they're doing there at the moment. They're getting promoted, and they've had a doco series for 3 years. The whole town's buzzing to get behind the sporting team. So unfortunately, I think that could have been the rugby league team, but here's what it is again.
So how was London then, playing for the Broncos?
Yeah, great place to live. What an awesome city London is. It's
big, eh?
It's just, you go to London and there's things that you see on postcards, and to have them sort of 15 minutes from where you're living, it's just, it was special. It was great. My youngest daughter was born there. We had a great time in London. It was awesome. We had a really good crowd. A crew of players, a lot of Aussies there at that time. So it was good times, good fun.
Oh, brilliant, man. And so you did have one last swan song. You came back to Australia and you signed with the Dragons. How did that move come about, and how good did it feel coming back to the NRL for one last crack?
Yeah, it was cool. It was I'd left the Broncos had financial troubles, so they needed to get offload players. So I'd actually left the Broncos to go and sign with Leeds Carnegie Rugby Union. So I'd done that, went there, spent about like a month, 6 weeks there, and the RFU wouldn't register my contract.
Really?
Being a foreigner. Yeah, a foreigner. So they wouldn't register my contract. So basically out in my ear for a little minute. And I said, okay, my wife and that were ready to go home. So I asked around a few NRL clubs, and I did get into Cooler Warriors straight away, actually. But they were sorted at the minute. So there was an opportunity at the Dragons, and I was like, cool, that's a great way to finish, go home, prove that I can still play at that level, because I've been out of the NRL for, probably 5-6 years. So I wanted to go back, challenge myself, see if I can get myself back in the NRL, and luckily enough managed to do so. Yeah.
So I think you only played like 1 or 2 games. Was that just due to injuries or just not picked at all?
Yeah. Or? No, so I got picked round 1. Round 1, I earned my position. Played okay, scored a try, went to score another try, and dislocated my shoulder. So carried off, obviously. I had 2 weeks off to get the shoulder back right, or kind of right, and delay sort of operation to the end of the year. Played a few more games, and then what happened then? The coach got sacked. So Mary McGregor took over, and I love Mary.
Yep.
He was a great guy, great coach. He said to me, I want you to go and play reserve grade because I want you to play hooker for me in the NRL. We just signed Benji Marshall. So I want you to play as our 14. So that was the plan. Went back to play reserve grade because he wanted to see that my shoulder after being dislocated was good to go, like defensively.
Yep.
So went back, played reserve grade, and in the second minute of the game, I snapped my ACL. So basically that was curtains. That was the end of it. Literally laying on the doctor's bed. And they said, yeah, you've done your ACL. And Mary come into the sheds and said, so your knee's done? I said, yeah. He goes, okay, will you coach the reserve grade? Will you be the assistant coach of the reserve grade now? So, wow, pretty of a whirlwind. But, yeah, it was injury that finished me with I needed shoulder reconstruction and a knee reconstruction. So that was pretty much it. And at the time, funnily, I mean, the game's changed a lot since then too because I was called the old boy. I was the oldest guy at the club. I was 30 years old.
30? So, that's not old now.
Yeah. No, so crazy. But at that time, I was literally the oldest guy in the whole club, in the whole of the Dragons. So obviously come off those injuries. They said, yeah, they'd keep me around for another year if I wanted to and do some coaching as well. But just happened the time. My youngest daughter was about to start school. Yeah, there was a few things there that just everything weighed up that it was time. And, yeah, I've been pretty – as a professional sportsman, you're pretty selfish, right? So you've got to go – no, this is where we're going, and I'm telling my wife and moving my young family to different parts of the world because I wasn't the best player, so I sort of had to scratch and claw my way around a career. So you're selfish in the way that, no, Angie, this is where we're going to play here, and sort of got to that time with my oldest daughter starting school, and I just said to my wife, like, I think I should retire. What do you think? We should go home. And she's like, yeah, I think that's the right thing for us. So, I think I do take some peace of mind that it was my choice to retire.
Yes.
And yeah, I started pretty young. I was 19 when I started playing, so I was ready to finish. And yeah, that's the road we went down. So moved back to the Gold Coast there in end of 2014.
It's beautiful, man. Do you look back on your career and you think, yeah, I'm pretty bloody proud of what I achieved? You know, because you've played some pretty big games, or do you think there's still a few stones you left unturned? Or?
Yeah, look, when I finished, like I mean, the older I get, the more I look back and go, yeah, wow, that was pretty special. I look at some of the things I did and go, that was cool. Like, it just seems like a different lifetime. Obviously, I wanted to achieve more. I felt like I was possible to achieve more. I got probably a couple of regrets, but that's life, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I was lucky enough to play footy for a job. I lived in 4 different countries. Footy took me to all those countries. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with what I had. I mean, obviously, I'd love to. Every grand final day, I sort of hate it. Like, I love watching it, but I also hate watching it because I'm jealous. Like, honestly, I'm jealous of watching guys win grand finals. Just go out. Like, I would just love that to be me, but that wasn't to be. And you know, just one of those things. I'm pretty happy with how it come out, but there's always a couple of things you'd like to tweak, of course.
Oh, I guess so, mate. I guess so. But I think it's pretty fair to say you're a well-remembered, well-loved player. Especially, obviously, the Warriors fans loved you. I think that's where you really made your mark in the NRL. No, my opinion. But I think it's fair to say you're a sharp-shooting, try-scoring, good playmaker, and the Warriors are all the better off for it. I think so anyway. I've got a few fan questions for you. Troy Warner from the Parramatta podcast. I'm sure you know who he is. He wants to know if there's one thing people don't know about you. What would it be?
One thing people don't know about me. Actually, when I retired, I had a professional boxing fight. That's probably what a lot of people don't know. I kept that pretty low key. I sort of boxed a bit, as you know, as a kid. And yeah, an opportunity to have a professional fight come up. So I did that. I went back to my old childhood trainer and had a fight, which was great. Loved that. I guess that's something that not many people know.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah.
Mm.
That's really awesome, man. Okay, Jenna Marie wants to know, what was your favorite season playing league and why?
Uh, yeah, I think that 2008 season, we just went on such a great run. The support from the locals, and that's why I love what's happening in the Warriors now. Obviously, it started sort of last year, but
Yeah.
I love watching the games now and seeing the fans, and I really have like a soft spot for Auckland and the Warriors. And
Yeah.
they're my club. I love them. And I love seeing the players of today getting to experience that, because I just remember being there. It was just such a special time. Like, it was so cool. So
Yeah.
cool. The vibe in Auckland and in New Zealand altogether was so special. And I love the fact that these boys are getting to feel that at the moment.
That's great, man. Great stuff. So Mark Horo, you might recognize that name. He wants to know, who was your favorite coach?
Oh, Mark Horro by 10 lengths. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mark
yeah, Mark.
actually, he coached me in the Parramatta under-17s. That was an end-of-season
Exactly.
trip. I wasn't in the team all year, but I was playing Jersey Flag under-20s, and we got beat the game before the grand final, which allowed me to go. They're like, okay, well, now you're going. So I remember going into the city to get a passport, like on the
Yeah.
Tuesday, to try and sort of speed things up, and went over there and played. He's a legend, Mark. Like, such a good dude, right? He was a good coach. He was like a real good motivator as well. I remember actually there was a bit of a ruckus. Guys from one of the other teams broke into our rooms, and I remember Mark up the front doing the haka, scaring all these guys and defending and we were all sort of behind him defending all our stuff. So I remember that very fondly. It was a pleasure to have been coached by him. That's for sure.
Oh, mate, he's a legend. I had him on the podcast. It was my last podcast before you.
Ah,
Absolute champion. Absolute
good
champion.
man, good man. And I remember his
Yes.
son Justin was over at
Yeah.
that trip as well. And Scope's doing amazing things now in the podcast world. So yeah, great family.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Right. Nathan Barrett wants to know. He's one of your mates. What is your supplement regime? How do you keep your body looking 30 when your head looks 60?
Nathan Barrett. Nathan Barrett's actually my cousin, cheeky bastard. So Nathan Barrett, he swallowed a sheep, so that's why he's standing in his glass house throwing stones. But he should be very careful.
Oh, I love it. Okay. Stevie Spark wants to know, what is the hardest hit you've ever taken?
Stevie Spark, he's a legend. He's a boxer. He just retired because he's had some hand injuries. I've known him through Toowoomba. He's superstar. Unfortunately, he's just retired. He had some massive fights, but he was just about to fight for a world title, and his hands are a bit knocked around, so he's had to retire. But awesome kid. He's not a kid, an awesome man. Sorry. Hardest hit. I remember my first game. Adrian Morley flying out at me. And I just managed to turn, but he hit me and I was spun in the air, but he didn't get me spot on. I remember one in London. We were playing against Leeds, and on the other team was Kylie Lulawai.
Oh, yes.
I thought I was real cool, made a step, and I made a break. I was like, oh, how good I'm in the open. Kylie was out the back, injured, with the trainer getting his leg strapped to something. And then as I sort of got through and thought, here I go, he was just standing there waiting for me and just buried me. Absolutely bit me in half.
Gold.
So that was it. That was a big shot.
Right. I've got 4 questions to finish that I always ask my guests. So, which team do you officially support in the NRL?
Up the wires.
Up the Wars. Okay. And who will win the NRL in 2024?
Warriors, of course.
Oh, there you go. 2 for 2. And what's your favorite TV show of all time?
TV show of all time. Oh, geez, you're testing me now. Favorite TV show of all time. You got me stumped. Actually, the best series I ever watched was on Netflix. Oh, now I'm even having a mind blank. I can't remember it. Oh, that was a good one. I'm like, yeah, this is what it is, and I can't remember the name. Suits. Suits is a great show.
Suits.
Great. That's
show.
the best one I can remember. Yeah, Suits. There you go.
Good. First one who said that as well. So very, very good show. I like that. Okay, final question, man. If you were on death row, what would your final meal be?
Final meal.
Yep.
Chips with chicken salt.
Too easy. Chips with chicken salt. Carbs,
and
mate.
a can of Coke.
Oh, yes. Oh, awesome, man. Cheers. I love the answers. And thank you so, so much for giving up your time, man. Coming on the Point of Difference Rugby League podcast and going back in the day
My
with
pleasure.
me. You're an absolute legend of a player. And I really, I just thank you heaps for your time, man. It's been awesome.
My pleasure. Sorry I'm late. I owe you one.
That's all good, man. It's all good. And thank you to everyone out there for listening on Spotify and watching on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, like, follow all that stuff, and get on the Facebook group, Point of Difference Rugby League. There's heaps of cool people. All the league players are all hanging out on there, having a good time. And so I've been Dave. This has been the amazing Michael Witt. Thanks for your time for playing rugby league. We loved you, mate. And we'll see you all next time for kickoff.
Thanks, Dave. Cheers, mate.
Full time.